Hey, welcome to Gatecrashers, another special interview episode. This time with my friend Patrick Schumacker to talk about the season 3 premiere of Harley Quinn. As you know, I'm a huge Harley Quinn fan. If you've been listening to a show for a while, you've heard how I kind of came into loving Harley Quinn and kind of getting over the Joker as a character. This interview is incredible. We get to talk about how the story gets to tell queer narratives as they are in the real life, completely normal and not something to be put into a corner. But check out our interview with Patrick. Make sure to check out Harley Quinn Season 3 now on HBO Max. The first 3 episodes drop today, so you can binge all 3 of those and prepare for an absolutely wild season because it is awesome. We also talk about the spinoff a little bit in this, Noonan's, and one of the characters who will be a staple in that. So, hope you enjoy. Pat, I know you've known me for a little bit of time, but I'm not sure you really understand that I am a hard-hitting journalist. So all of my interviews, I come swinging out the door. So I hope you're ready.
Oh, no.
What's your favorite sandwich?
Favorite sandwich? Well, for the last year, I've been a vegan. So I'm going to say the vegan banh mi from Mendocino Farms.
Harley Quinn. Season 3 is where we finally are getting Harley Ivy on screen for the real first time. How does it feel for you and your team to be able to tell queer narratives to such a large audience in the superhero genre?
Yeah, well, it's amazing. That's kind of the word that springs to mind, and an absolute honor, and one that I did not fully understand kind of going into this project. And it's been a roller coaster because, we wrote the first 2 seasons in a vacuum. We wrote, we were picked up for 26 episodes initially by DC Universe, which was our original network. We knew that we wanted to break up both seasons, or these 2 seasons, into 2 discrete 13-episode arcs. And we knew halfway through the game that the end of the second arc would be Harley and Ivy becoming Harlivy and sort of driving off into the sunset while being chased by the GCPD, and that they were in love with each other, and this was the beginning of their actual relationship as like a hot item, a real couple, whatever you want to say. And it's funny because we had to kind of sit on it for quite some time before that second season came out. And whether it was little glimpses like in the marketing or little hints that I gave in interviews, the queer community was certainly like salivating at the eventual payoff. And I think the wait became so long, and that, we didn't pay it off in season 1 because we wanted to focus on Harley's kind of vocation and sort of finding out who she was as an individual. And we didn't want to jump immediately right into her having another relationship with anyone. That I think the queer community, some parts of it were feeling like we were potentially queer baiting, or we were, that we're just going to, dangle the will they, won't they for like 5 seasons. And so, we got some pretty strong reactions. I know that there was some story I read on like a fanfic thing on like that site AO3, in which I was being sodomized by J.K. Rowling, and then we high-fived and said something turfish to each other before my penis opened up and actually ate me. Didn't happen in real life. It didn't happen in real life, but it happened in this behind the scenes fan fiction story. And I was like, oh, some people are real angry about this and think that I'm like a villain. And I'm like, I swear to you, it's going to be worth the wait. I don't want to spoil anything. And then, episode 13 of season 2 aired, and, Harley and Ivy did drive off into the sunset with, the end ? And, they said their I love yous to each other. And I would say the doubters all were finally able to release that sort of pent up distrust or frustration or what have you. And and then it was just this outpouring of like positivity from everyone. And, it continues. And we had the sneak preview on Thursday night of Comic-Con, 10 p.m. screening. People waited like 2 hours to see. It was amazing. And people came up to us, couples came up to us, queer couples came up to us after the screening and were like, you have no idea how much this show means to us to see ourselves on screen, to be able to root for these characters. And maybe most importantly, they're like, you guys aren't like labeling it, right? Like, you're not making this big to do. It just is. Like, they exist, and it's not like, hey, yes, like, look at this queer couple. And it's just, they're a couple. And I guess, and maybe I'm getting this wrong, but it's like it is normalizing queer couples in a way, I think, that real queer couples appreciate.
Yeah. You're showing the world how it is.
Yeah. And like, they're in a loving, healthy relationship, despite all of the trials and tribulations that we put them through, and we will put them through a lot in season 3. They're always going to stay together. And I promise that, I've said it before, as long as we're in charge of the show, we meaning Justin and myself, we will have to be dragged out of the Warner Brothers lot kicking and screaming if Harley and Ivy are ever made to break up. I don't see it ever happening.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you didn't get Kafka metamorphosed by your own penis. That is a wild reaction to a show.
What a way to go, right?
Yeah. Listen, if you're going to go one way, at least it's that. So I will be so bold to say that Harley Quinn kind of is only second to Batman in popularity these days for DC. What do you think it is about her that keeps her so relevant in people's minds?
I think she's always been, and this was like part of our pitch and all the way back in 2016, that, she's been kind of this personification of the id. She's a walking wish fulfillment fantasy. Life gives you lemons, and you're told to make lemonade out of them, but our sort of preternatural instinct as flawed humans is to take a baseball bat to somebody's face who's crossing us, and Harley does that. And so it's a big on the wish fulfillment fantasy aspect, I think. Also, I think she's just this multifaceted character and kind of this walking contradiction, where you have this highly educated woman with a PhD in criminal psychology, and also you have the clown. And so, how do those two things sort of organically coexist? And I don't know that they do organically coexist. We just believe it. And I think it's like, maybe it just her staying power has sort of, eased us into that weird kind of contradictory aspect of the character.
So your show has a ton of different interpretations of characters that people know and love. Which one of your show's interpretations are you most proud of?
I think I would probably say Ivy, because I can label it as a prideful reaction, because I think we pitched the character as a sort of Cameron Friday, Harley's Ferris Bueller. She's a little bit like Daria. We thought that was kind of an interesting take, an interesting foil for our interpretation of Harley, and we've stuck with that. And I think she's become a real fan favorite. So I'm proud of that. I would say the one that's the character who's become a fan favorite just amongst the public, but also internally with our writers, has been Bane. That's one that I can't take any sort of prideful credit for, because that character became such a departure, aside from the sort of Tom Hardy voice riff that James Adomian is doing. That character has become such a departure from comics canon, where, he is kind of like the smartest guy in the room everywhere. We've made him kind of the dumbest guy in the room. And I, at one point, was like, as a, comics nerd, I'm like, should we buy this back? Like, should Bane get a big win? And really this whole thing was an act, and he is just duping everyone. And the writers just emptied the trash can in the room on top of my head and were like, fuck off. And I was like, all right, corrected. And I think just taking the L in that situation made way for a much bigger W in my life.
Yeah. I like you a lot, but I probably am on Team Trash Can for that because the Bane is incredible. When they make him sit in that little chair, I think I've watched that scene probably 100 times just because I cannot stop laughing. It's such a simple bit, but like this gigantic man and everyone else has nice chairs and he's in a folding chair.
Yeah, he needs lumbar support, and I also think, just as an extension of this conversation about Bane, he's being a fan favorite. I think like you're going to be seeing a lot more of him, both in season 3, in some other stuff, including Noonan's the spinoff. Bane will be a series regular in that show.
That's the best news I could hear. So you said Ivy. Ivy's connected to the Green. And in the trailer, we got to see Swamp Thing, who I am so excited to finally meet. How would you describe the vibes of your Swamp Thing?
I'm glad you said vibes because that makes me think chill vibes, which is what this Swamp Thing is all about. He has gone through a nasty divorce when we meet him in this version. You'll meet him in episode 5 of season 3. We do a little road trip down to the bayou. Ivy needs Swamp Thing's help as keeper of the Green. She is starting to experience. She needs to access the Green. Swamp Thing is the way to go about that. Ivy's power set in our show is, it's really it hasn't, she's not an overpowered being yet. It's still, she has only, tapped like 20% of what she's capable of. So she goes down to the bayou to meet Swamp Thing for what exactly, other than accessing the Green, I won't say. There is a specific reason that she needs to access the Green. And when she finds Swamp Thing, he's just hanging out. Chill vibes, guy who likes to maybe take a toke from a doobie once in a while. But that's kind of maybe covering those chill vibes, or maybe covering for the sort of inner strife that he's still feeling, having gone through a painful divorce. He also has a very special relationship with Nora Freeze, the widow of Mr. Freeze, who makes an appearance in this episode as well. He's all about the most artisan beignets that are available in the swamp. But yeah, he becomes like a little bit of a mentor to Ivy in terms of navigating the Green. Will she listen to him though? That's TBD. If she does listen to him, she's probably going to have a much easier time. But I don't think anything comes easy for our characters in this show.
No, the episode is very emotional, so I'm excited for people to see it.
Yeah, and I should say that Sam Richardson voices Swamp Thing. I think it's probably, I would say, an unexpected choice. Love Sam Richardson, though. He did an incredible job.
I didn't know if that was out there, but
yeah, it's out there. It's out there.
Love Sam Richardson. So yeah, he nails it. So nice. On top of that, you do get to bring in Nightwing this season. Was there any particular reason you wanted to bring in the Boy Wonder?
Yeah, well, we wanted to explore the Bat family a bit more in this season, and people will find out why as we progress. We also wanted to give, Batgirl a bit more to do in like a leadership role, let's say, because Bruce is struggling a bit. I think that's fair to say, with his relationship, his romance with Selena. They're going through some choppy waters there. And so Batgirl is kind of having to shoulder the burden in Bruce's, at least, emotional absence from the Bat family. And because of that, we wanted to bring in Nightwing to help kind of bolster the team in Bruce's absence. But also we needed to give Batgirl a bit of an antagonist within this group of heroes. And so we turned to Harvey Guillen of What We Do in the Shadows to voice Nightwing, Dick Grayson. He's returning from Bloodhaven in episode 2 of this season, and he is, I think, a riff on the Titans series version, the the TV show, the HBO Max version, who's a little bit more emo, a little bit more brooding. He's kind of a far cry from the Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo comics run right now, which worried me at first. But people seem to be digging this kind of, emo version of Dick. And so he comes into the Batcave thinking that, nothing will have changed. But as a matter of fact, the whole ecosystem has changed because of Batgirl's presence. She's essentially taken his locker, in the Batcave. He's like, what's this? He hasn't met her yet. He sees the Batgirl costume and he's like, why does this costume have boobs? Like, what is going on? And so, he becomes kind of an antagonistic force to Babs early on in this season.
This one's just for me, but do we get to see him have any interaction with Damian, who is Robin currently?
Yes, absolutely. Damian's a prick, well-established prick. He continues to be a prick in this show. He doesn't suffer fools. Dick hasn't seen him for a bit. He's surprised to know that Damian's a teenager now, and Damian's like, well, that's how time works, dickwad. And Damian has taken, Dick calls shotgun in the Batmobile. Damian's already there, flicking him off from the front seat. And so, Dick is feeling like he's on the lowest rung of the ladder. He's got to ride shotgun on the back of the Macaroni's penny farthing, the Macaroni being Alfred's Bat family alter ego. And Dick's not feeling great about it.
So one last question before I let you go. With Harley Quinn and your other show, Abbot Elementary, both of them are weekly rather than being dropped at once. What strengths do you think that has as a writer for you when you're telling stories that you have to wait a week between to watch?
Well, it's interesting. We wrote Harley before we knew what the model was going to be for HBO Max. They are dropping the first 3 episodes of Harley on premiere night. So on Thursday, September 28th, season 3 will have episodes 1, 2, and 3 available. And I think that I really love that model because I also have a real soft spot for the 3rd episode, which deals with the Villy Awards, the 83rd annual Villy Awards, which is an award show for supervillains that's hosted by the Joker. You get to see a nice musical number from the Joker called Like Joker Do, that is sort of a Kevin Spacey-esque little show tune. I'm a big fan of that. That episode was written by Jameson Borak, who's one of our seasons 2 and 3 writers. He did a fantastic job. But to get back to your question, I think I don't know that we even look at it anymore like there's going to be a week in between. I think we write these things like they're bingeable or they're not. Mm-hmm. We just want to tell the best stories as possible. I am a fan of the weekly drop. I think, not only does it sort of prolong the life of the show in the conversation, it also just I like having those sort of 6 days of anticipation leading up to the next episode. And I think that works in an episodic show like Abbott, which is, it has some serialization, but it's pretty minimal, or Harley, which is a much more highly serialized show. I think either way, having those 6 days of downtime in between makes for better conversation. And so we don't go into it writing it a certain way. I just think it's really all about the narrative of the show, no matter what. And Harley has always just sort of been hyper serialized, and Abbott less so. But there is a mythology to Abbott that will carry through all 22 episodes of season 2. Yeah. So the short answer is we don't look at it that way, and we just try and make the best story that we can, and then the network can distribute it however they see fit.
I love it. So I'm so glad you were here. Harley Quinn is out today on HBO Max. You can watch season 1 and 2 and the first 3 episodes of season 3. It was great to finally have you on the show.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank
Crazy
you.
To see your face.
Hey, always a pleasure.
Your head. Looks good. That's a crazy permanent tattoo.
Yeah, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life.
I made this mistake.
Is that an X-Men tattoo?
It is.
Wow.
Got it when I was 18 on 6th Street in Austin, Texas, where I went to college.
Wow.
I was coaxed into it by my ex-girlfriend. She's like, I want to get a tattoo, but I'm only going to get one if you get one. I was like, well, what do I like?
X-Men. I don't have the I'm too my mind changes so often. I've never been able to get a tattoo. Maybe one day. We'll see. But thank you so much.